As you guys may know, Clutch Sports, many of their clients, have been going balls to the wall defending LeBron James versus Michael Jordan. And the guy today taking on this challenge actually runs Clutch Sports, that being Rich Paul, a personal friend of LeBron James. So when watching this video, hearing Rich Paul talk, him being so close to LeBron, it's almost like LeBron James in the video is speaking through Rich Paul and is reciting talking points that LeBron gave him. Without further ado, let's roll these clips.
Michael Jordan was my favorite player growing up. I've had every shoe ever made up to 14 when it started getting a little weird. But at the end of the day, that was me, right? That's all we had to compare to. There was nothing else. Mike transcended the game. When Kobe came, Kobe was a silhouette of Mike, right? That's everything, which is great. But LeBron is the first player to have to deal with a 24/7, 365 news cycle of sports and opinions.
Now, stopping Rich right there, I want to make one point, not even about basketball. From a debate perspective, if you're debating two players, and you have your guy on this side, other guy on that side, and you open your debate argument by saying, oh, I love this guy, respect him, he's my favorite player growing up. What you're doing is trying to soften the blow, dull your criticism of that player in the coming minutes. And this tactic by Rich Paul did not go unnoticed. But addressing his actual points about 24/7 media coverage, I really don't buy it. Because back in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, you had 24/7 sports media just like today. And back then I would argue they were more harsh in the papers and on TV than they are today. The real difference in these eras is social media. And on one hand, it can be absolutely dreadful. On the other hand, it's a major benefit. And look, we all have phones, all have laptops, whatever it may be, and we all have social media. It takes literally 2 seconds. Turn your phone off, shut your laptop, and black out the noise. It's really not that hard. Heck, even LeBron in Cleveland had the infamous 0 dark 30 come playoff time. I don't want to hear this boo-hoo story about social media being so hard, being so devastating, and how heavy that crown is to wear. Because I would actually argue social media for LeBron James, having millions of followers at the tip of his finger, it's a major benefit to him to push his narratives. And looking at the actual media, it is littered with LeBron James superfans. From Nick Wright, Shannon Sharp, Kendrick Perkins, to Dave McMenamin, and Brian Windhorst.
And so then you have this environment in this sports society that's created, right? And so now you have the root against. That's a whole nother thing that Mike never had to deal with because his hardest critic was probably Peter Vesey.
Yep. Straight up.
You see what I'm saying?
Fucking Peter Vesey.
But I just think LeBron's antlers is in platinum and Michael's may be in gold. Why? Because when you think about, he had to be compared to Mike.
So stopping it really quickly, what are we actually talking about here? Are we going to get to any tangible things for LeBron versus Jordan and who's the greatest of all time? I'm already getting tired of this sob story about the media, and now we're talking about antlers and debating players? And look, again, from a debate perspective, you want to come out strong in your points off the bat. And it is pretty telling, his go-to argument for LeBron James being better than Jordan has nothing to do with basketball. Nothing to do with championships, finals play, iconic moments, and just their careers in general. All he wants to talk about is the media landscape and the pressure on LeBron. And one of the big-time myths that is very pervasive is that Michael Jordan, his career, wasn't really critiqued by the media. That's complete BS. The late 80s, early 90s media was completely ruthless, and compared to today, got away with a lot more criticism. And I want to make this point crystal clear. Back in the 90s and the 80s, the sports media was almost godlike, and what they said was gospel. And for players back then, they had no voice to combat that media. So again, whatever the media pushed, that was the going narrative. Unlike today where a player can get on Twitter, tweet something out, say it's false, inaccurate, and combat that media narrative. And if you want to talk criticism, Michael Jordan in 93-94, the media was going after him for allegedly getting his father killed. That is one of the most disgusting things I've seen the media do for a player in any sport.
Right? You talk about, oh, he lost this X amount of finals. Well, how many finals you been to?
2.
How hard was it to get there?
Extremely.
How many finals you been to?
Not a goddamn one.
What about you? Why didn't you go?
Hard. Had to go to LeBron.
We talking about 4 guys, 3 lottery picks, a rule, the Gilbert Arenas rules created for him, because of him. You know.
So stopping it right there, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first time Rich Paul has talked about actual basketball on the court. But the problem is, he's not comparing Jordan versus LeBron head to head. Because Rich Paul knows Jordan head to head is the greater and better player. So what he does, his bar, which should be Jordan, is now lowered, asking Rashad McCants, Kenny Martin, and Gilbert Arenas how hard it was to make the finals. Now, no disrespect to those players, they were great players, and they made a couple of all-star games. But we're debating the top 1% of players. LeBron versus Jordan, not LeBron versus Rashad McCants. Again, a pretty sneaky debate tactic, lowering the bar for LeBron James, comparing him versus those guys, and not to Jordan. And for the final time in this video, someone wake me up when Rich Paul compares Jordan versus LeBron head-to-head on a basketball court. Because so far, this has been rough to listen to.
So now, when you talk about the GOAT, okay, the man made a decision to go to Miami. Whether you like it or not, every kid today is saying what? I'm taking my talents too. It was just ahead of his time. It's okay for us to say that. He was the first social media athlete of anything. It's okay for us to say it was ahead of his time.
So I gotta cut in right there. I'm sorry, I apologize. Because at this point, Rich Paul was just rambling, saying nonsense, going unchecked by the panel. And he keeps talking about social media, the pressure, all this. I don't care. We don't care. Pull a Kawhi Leonard, beat Tatum, Jokic, Luka, even Giannis. Those guys, for the most part, aren't on social media, and it's not that hard to ignore the noise. And look, from a superstar perspective, I don't think LeBron James actually hates social media and the media. Because again, he has a lot of pro-LeBron fans in the media, and on Twitter, Instagram, he is very, very active.
The narrative of, okay, well, he went to Miami and, they made him this way. What? Now, what did help was infrastructure, consistency, professionalism, which LeBron's always had. That's no question about that. But I'm saying overall, from a culture perspective, right?
Organization.
Yep. Which was all great. But to create this narrative of he needed somebody and they, no, it's a shared need. Because if I don't go there.
If you're a man watching this video and you're single, find yourself a woman who will defend you like Rich Paul defends LeBron James. Because this dude is straight up delusional when talking about LeBron in Miami. D-Wade at that point in 2011, he already had his championship. He was straight. He won in 2006. The guy who needed a championship, needed that validation, was LeBron James. As 8 years in, he was ringless and getting clowned for it every passing season. And yes, it is pretty self-evident. Dwayne Wade's championship pedigree, teaching LeBron how to win, letting him be the number one option, that won Miami 2 championships and got them to 4 finals. And I think it's pretty universally known, D-Wade on those teams was the heart and soul and the face of the franchise. And whatever you want to call it, Heat culture, Heat mentality, it's been rolling before and after the Big Three era. As even in 2016 many forget, the Heat team minus Chris Bosh went to the second round, forcing the Raptors to a Game 7. And the last 4 years have made 2 finals and got pushed to Game 7 of the East Finals in 2022. It's downright disrespectful to Pat Riley, Eric Spoelstra, even Dwayne Wade, to say LeBron James didn't need them.
Comparisons are the thief of joy. But Michael's a GOAT, no question about it. But LJ's a GOAT as well. He came in, $100 million contract. Think people like that? There hasn't been one since, and it won't be one. Right? Mm-hmm. It's a good segue for you, Joe. It won't be one. You feel what I'm saying? Because shoe deals ain't what they used to be. But I'm just saying, when you talk about all the teammates around him that got paid, all the coaches that got paid, all the Lance Blanks, Chris Grant, Danny Ferry, Wes Wilcox was there. He's a GM. Yep. When you just really break down the impact, mm-hmm. right? How could you say that this man is not a GOAT?
Now, cutting off Rich Paul right here, I'm actually at a loss for words. We're 10 minutes into this video, and Rich Paul still has not compared Jordan versus LeBron. All we've gotten is a bunch of word salad mixed with lawyer talk. And quite literally, no talk about basketball or LeBron versus Jordan head to head. And of course, I'm not a registered doctor, I'm just a guy on YouTube. But seeing Rich Paul talk, he's got a classic case of basketball started in 2003. It's a very common illness in younger fans, but also can affect people over the age of 30, like Rich Paul. And the last point I do want to make, how on a podcast for a solid 15 minutes talking about LeBron versus Jordan, did nobody on the panel check this guy and actually ask him why LeBron James is greater and a better overall basketball player? We got none of that, no questions, no interjections, absolutely nothing from this panel. Just Rich Paul talking for 10 minutes straight about absolutely nothing. Again, apologies. I'll see you next time.